Her husband was one of the most powerful generals in the ancient world. He had commanded armies across 3 continents. He had fought beside Cyrus the Great himself. He had never lost a battle he wasn't expected to lose, and he was afraid of his own soldiers seeing his wife's face. Not because she was weak, because she was so striking, so commanding, that he feared his men would lose focus entirely. So he hid her, behind a mask, behind silence, behind his own reputation. But you cannot hide a woman like Pantea Arteshbod, not from history, not from the battlefield, and not from the soldiers who followed her anyway. Her name means strong in Old Persian. She earned it. To understand Pantea, you have to understand the world she was born into. The Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great was unlike anything the ancient world had produced. Cyrus did not simply conquer territories, he absorbed them. He allowed conquered peoples to keep their religions, their languages, their customs. And he promoted people based on ability, not bloodline, not gender, not origin. This is documented. The administrative tablets found at Persepolis show women receiving rations, wages, and authority for roles that included management, supervision, and command. Pantea was a product of this world, a Persian noblewoman, highly educated, raised in a culture that did not automatically exclude women from positions of real power. Her husband was General Arteshbod, one of Cyrus's most trusted commanders, but Pantea was not simply a general's wife. She held the title Arteshbod, commander, in her own right. What we know about her comes from 2 sources: Persian historical tradition, which credits her with military command, administrative authority over Babylon, and a central role in building the Persian Immortals, and Xenophon's Cyropedia, a semi-fictional Greek biography of Cyrus, written in the 4th century BC, which features her as Pantea, a woman of extraordinary presence and loyalty. Neither source gives us the full picture, but together they give us enough to understand that Pantea was real, she was powerful, and she was remembered even when the record tried to move past her. But before she governed Babylon, before she helped shape the Immortals, there was already a rumor spreading through the Persian army that General Arteshbod would not allow his soldiers to look directly at his wife. But here's what makes Pantea's story different from almost every other woman in the ancient world. She didn't just survive inside a system of power, she helped build one. The Persian Immortals. 10,000 soldiers, exactly 10,000. Always. That was the rule that gave them their name. When a soldier was killed or wounded severely enough to leave the field, he was replaced immediately. Before the battle was even over, the force never shrank. It never weakened. It never showed a gap. To every enemy who faced them, the Immortals appeared to be exactly what their name promised. They served 2 functions simultaneously. In times of war, they were the Empire's most elite fighting force. Shock troops, first in, last out. In times of peace, they were the Royal Guard, the living wall between the king and the world. No force in the ancient world operated quite like them. And according to Iranian historical tradition, the woman who helped build them was Pantea Arteshbod. Working alongside her husband General Arteshbod, she is credited with establishing the structure, the training protocols, and the command hierarchy that made the Immortals what they became. The selection process was rigorous. Soldiers had to be Persian by blood. They were trained from childhood, from the age of 7, in combat discipline and loyalty. Only the best made it, and the best answered to her. Imagine standing in formation among 10,000 soldiers, and knowing the commander reviewing the line was a woman hidden behind a battle mask. But there is something about Pantea's story that no history book quite captures. Something her husband did. Something that tells you more about the kind of woman she was than any battle record ever could. We will come back to it. In 539 BC, Cyrus the Great turned his attention to Babylon. Babylon was not just a city, it was the most famous metropolis in the ancient world, home to more than 200,000 people, center of trade, religion, and culture for the entire Near East. Taking it militarily was one thing. Holding it, governing it, keeping it stable was something else entirely. When Babylon fell, Cyrus made an extraordinary choice. He did not install a Macedonian general. He did not send a Persian nobleman from the court. He appointed Pantea Arteshbod to govern Babylon, to keep the peace, to manage the transition, to hold the most important city in the ancient world together. From the inside, she did it. Babylon should have erupted into rebellion. Empires had fallen trying to hold cities smaller than this one. One wrong decision, one uprising, one assassination, and the entire Persian conquest could have collapsed almost overnight. The key military moment came at the Battle of Opis. Pantea played a decisive role. The exact details of her command decisions at Opis have not survived in primary sources, but Persian tradition is consistent on one point. She was there, she commanded, and the battle was won. The sources record that the transition was stable, that law and order were maintained, that Babylon, which had every reason to resist, accepted Persian rule. That is not a small accomplishment. That is the kind of administrative authority most generals spend entire careers trying to achieve. Pantea did it while also commanding the most elite military force in the empire. Now we come back to what her husband did, the detail that no one who hears it ever forgets. Persian tradition tells us that Pantea was, by all accounts, extraordinarily striking, not just in appearance, in presence, in the way she carried herself, in the authority that came off her naturally, the way heat comes off stone in summer. And General Arteshbod, her husband, a man who had commanded armies and never flinched, was afraid, not of the enemy, of his own men. He feared that if his soldiers saw her, really saw her, they would be so captivated they would lose focus on the battlefield. So he asked her to wear a mask during battle, to cover her face, to make herself less visible, to contain herself for the sake of the army she was leading. Think about what that means. A woman so commanding that the greatest military mind of his generation was more worried about her presence on the battlefield than about the enemy in front of him. A woman who had to be hidden, not because she was weak, but because she was too much. She wore the mask anyway, and she led the army to victory. There is something almost unbearably telling about that image. The most powerful woman on the battlefield, hidden behind a mask so the men she commanded could focus on the war instead of on her. Here's what we need to say directly. The historical record on Pantea is layered. The Greek historian Xenophon wrote about her in his Cyropaedia, a biography of Cyrus the Great written roughly 200 years after these events. Xenophon's Pantea is real in his account, but his account is also part biography, part philosophical exercise, part idealized fiction. He describes her as a devoted wife, a woman of extraordinary beauty and loyalty. He does not describe her as a military commander. The Persian historical tradition, which credits her with command of the Immortals, governance of Babylon, and a decisive role at Opis, comes from later Iranian sources and is not corroborated by Herodotus or other Greek historians. What does that mean? It means we hold both things. It means we acknowledge that the details of her military command come from tradition rather than confirmed primary sources. And it means we also acknowledge what we know about the Persian world she lived in. A world where women genuinely did hold positions of authority, where the administrative tablets of Persepolis confirm women receiving wages and oversight roles, where female military commanders were documented. Is it possible that a woman named Pantea held significant military and administrative power under Cyrus the Great? Yes. Is every detail of her story confirmed in primary sources? No. And that honesty is part of what makes her story worth telling, because here's what the gaps in the record actually tell us. Someone decided she didn't need to be remembered precisely. What Pantea Arteshbod left behind was not a tomb, not a monument, not a dynasty. She left behind a structure. The Persian Immortals, the force she helped build, remained the backbone of Persian military power for 200 years after her death. The empire she helped stabilize after Babylon became the largest and most sophisticated administrative system the ancient world had ever seen. The world that Pantea helped build was the world that shaped everything that came after it. its tolerance, its systems, its understanding of how to hold diverse peoples together without destroying what made them distinct. That is a legacy. Even if the name attached to it was nearly erased, history remembers the kings who built empires. But sometimes, hidden behind those empires, there was a woman the empire itself could not fully contain. Her name means strong. The historical record, even with its gaps, even with its silences, confirms that she was. The mask her husband asked her to wear did not make her less visible. It made her unforgettable. Pantea Arteshbod, commander, administrator, builder of the force they called the Immortals. A woman whose power was so undeniable that even those who tried to contain it through a mask, through silence, through the slow erosion of the historical record, could not make her disappear. Her name means strong. Remember it. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to her sacred legacy. There is one more woman in this world to meet. Cassandane, the wife Cyrus the Great mourned so publicly that he stopped an empire to grieve. Her story is next,